Hello, everybody, and welcome to Pull Focus, the cinema-based entertainment podcast where a couple of freelancers come together to talk shop. My name is Mike, and as always, I am joined by my brother in crime, the true actor of Utah, the camera's man, the beard that just won't quit. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Robert Andrus.
Stop, you guys. I love the standing ovations every time. You always make me feel welcome and special. Thank you to our audience members. Thank you very much. The canned audience that you are.
Indeed. It's hard to fill the 150 clapping hands in this one can. Andrus, it's pretty rough. Luckily, though, we are not alone. We have the great good fortune to have a guest on the show today, and it is an absolute pleasure to have her. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be introducing to you an actor who has a career that spans the decades, that stretches between both coasts of the United States, and somehow we were lucky enough to have her land here in Utah. The owner and head administrator and instructor of the SRS Performing Arts Academy of Salt Lake City, ladies and gentlemen, Miss Sue Rowe.
Yes, and thank you for my standing ovation as well for the camp audience.
If anything, I will admit they are standing a little bit higher for you than they are for Andrus too. I'll put that out there for sure.
I mean, isn't that obvious? I mean, like honestly, it's just obvious. And then, some of them stood on their chairs this time.
It's a beautiful thing. They don't do that often. Yeah. They don't do that often, but it's such a pleasure to have you with us, Sue. We really do appreciate the time you're giving us out of your busy schedule, especially with Andrus' busy schedule too. Production and acting and everything here in Utah has up to a fever clip, despite the fact that we are living in the day of COVID. And it's just a pleasure to have you here. So thank you very much for giving us your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Well, we wanted to take a chance to, it's one thing when I get to pick the brain of somebody who has the experience of being on the circuit here in Utah with Andrus every episode. But when we have the capability of getting two actors in the room, I always jump at the chance, especially when, we have the capability to talk about, touching subjects, interesting art pieces. And this episode with the film that we're going to be talking about, which we will get to, is definitely par for the course for sure. When we come into play and we have the capability of being able to, provide our listeners with, the real actor's take, it is important for people to understand. Andrus has already gone through and told us and provided for us the many facets that he's talented with. It's not just acting that the Andrus crew deal with. It's also casting, production, that kind of thing. It's come to my experience that actors here, me coming from an audio background, I'm not as specified in that regard. But when it comes to the community here in Utah, how many of the people that that classify themselves as actors also need to be skilled in other facets of production? Is it something where you can't afford not to be just an actor, or is it a situation where you have the opportunity to be skilled in so many other things here in the local circuit that you can't help but take a chance to jump into that? What other facets of production have you specialized yourself with in your career here in Salt Lake and otherwise?
Yeah, well, I do think that it is something that actors need to look into. I mean, definitely moving into voiceover work, moving into
Sure.
Some production, if that is what they want to solely do. Utah is a smaller market than LA, of course, but right now, I mean, we are probably bigger than most of the markets right now.
Absolutely.
Because of the current, the virus. And so for me, I started writing about 2008, and I started writing feature films, and then I started just learning everything behind the scenes, how to produce the film. I love directing. Of course, coaching is one of my utmost favorite things that I do. I love to be able to give actors the opportunities that I've had in the past.
That's great. That's awesome. Let's talk about that a little bit, because like I mentioned before in the intro, and this is something that Andrus has helped me understand a bit too with his professional relationship with the Academy. You are the owner of the SRS Performing Arts Academy here in Salt Lake. How did that come about, and what should people expect from that endeavor? What's the goal that you're trying to reach in regards to that organization?
Yeah, so the goal I'm trying to reach is really just to have actors and artists trained well and living a happy and productive life. That would probably be my most, or like my biggest goal, is to just make sure that artists or actors are working and yeah, that they're living that full life that they can live. And, because I think for me, it took me so long to figure out how to be able to work in the industry, how to get myself busy with productions, and so just giving the actors those tools. And especially, I love working with the newer actors. I love giving them a foundation of acting so that they can move forward in that productive manner. And I just want to make sure that actors are trained professionally. They don't fall into traps. They don't fall into things that is going to make them have big detours in their life or careers.
Right.
So that's what I love to be able to do.
And not to age either of us, Sue, but we've known each other since we were toddlers when
Yes.
20 years ago plus that we met. But Sue and I had this conversation. I don't even know how long ago it was now, about how important it is to have actors well trained, like she said.
No question.
But also just to understand the basics. I don't know if you remember this conversation, Sue, or not, but it was quite a while ago, and we were both talking about the idea that we've taken these classes and we have an idea as far as what our foundation is, but we really didn't discover our true artistry or the scope of our artistry within acting until much later, when we started to process everything. And I think something that Sue does incredibly well is she's very, very in tune to the actor in front of her. And she has this way of understanding how to communicate to that actor in order for them to take what took us many, many years to cultivate into an answer or an idea.
Do you guys think
do it very quickly?
Do you guys think as educators then, because of that role that you decided to take, it forces you to look at this whole challenge? I mean, being an actor, being a professional when it comes to any kind of art form, I think is probably, well, I know from personal experience, it's a very hard job. Right. Do you guys think that, when you decided to take on that additional role as an educator, was it intimidating because it forced you to have to look at this thing you thought you knew so well from a different perspective? Because I think you would have to do that in order to show people, do X, don't do Y. If you do this, it's going to take you longer to gain the skill. Is that something that you found intimidating early on, Sue? I mean, you turned this into not only something for your own, personal happiness and professional happiness, but you're a business owner. So there's challenges in regards to that as well. Was it intimidating when you decided to take that step?
Yeah, for sure. I remember when I first opened my studio, and to be completely honest, I was thinking, oh my gosh, I don't even know what I'm doing. But when I started the classes, I had years and years of training before that, but I didn't realize how much I really knew about the industry, about being an actor, until I started coaching. And then when I started coaching, I found that it just was able to flood to my mind and, pour out to the students. So I was really actually pleasantly surprised.
That's good.
And
yeah.
It's something,
I would hope so.
It's something, I know, right? I would have quit a long time ago. It's something that I absolutely love. And it's something I always wanted to do. I had some great mentors, Richard Hatch, who has passed a few years ago. Yeah. And just watching him and the passion that he put into his work and how much he loved actors, and to see them grow as a person and as an actor, that's something that I really wanted to be able to do. And so, that was the one thing that really inspired me.
That's interesting. Andrus has told me stuff about that before, about how having to actually organize. I mean, how do you teach somebody how to act? It's one of the hardest things in the world. But he's told me in the past where putting himself in that position has forced him to organize the tools that he has in his head and from the years of training that he's had. How it's forced him to become a better actor. Do you think that over time, I mean, absolutely, different careers are going to change people's lives and that kind of thing. But do you think it'd probably be generally a pretty good idea for actors to at least experiment in coaching so that it may help them with their own craft? Do you think that's been beneficial to you when you're in front of a camera and you have to learn lines and so on and so forth?
For sure. I mean, I think everybody has their own role in this industry, and I honestly don't feel that coaching is for everybody, but I do believe, and we do that in class every now and then, we'll give our students the opportunity to direct the other actors just so they can feel what it's like to be on that other side.
That's cool.
Yeah. But I mean, I honestly don't think it's the calling for everybody, and it's probably not their goals and desires, but sure, to like give it a try and see if that's something they want to do in the future, or just to experience, coaching another actor, that could help them as well to maybe open up a door to become a director in the future.
Yeah, that's great. Well, we're going to get to the film pretty soon, but I had one more question that I wanted to bring up to both of you before we jump into this. And it's really something that you touched on a little bit when we first started today's episode, and that's in regards to, the market here in Utah. I've been living in Utah for the past 7 some odd years, and what's really hit me, coming from a creative background, is how much I could see there being huge potentials for production here in Utah. And we definitely have had that, over the years. You guys would know better than I would, but there have been television shows that have been, produced and shot here, sides for movies, commercials, that kind of thing. For both of you, what do you guys think is probably the best argument for increasing production here in Utah? What do you think is probably, the best elevator pitch that you have for the big studios like Warner Brothers, Sony, whoever? Bring a studio out here so that we can start making use of the making use of this community. What do you think is probably the best argument for doing that? A big question, I know, but I wanted to get everybody's perspective in regards to it.
Go ahead, Sue. Did you want me to go first, or what?
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, lead.
For me, I would just say that when there's a mentality that there's a small market here. Which is accurate, right?
Right.
But given the opportunity, every time I've seen somebody given the opportunity to outshine that perspective, that they have.
Yeah.
So I think one, it's a mentality. What I've been telling a lot of the people that I've been talking to recently, this is students, this is production people, this is colleagues within the industry.
Yeah.
Is it's no longer a small market.
It's not. No.
It's no longer a state market. It's no longer a national market. It's a global market.
Yeah, for sure. My affiliation with you, I mean, I haven't been on set for a number of years, but being able to get your input and also input of a lot of other people in the community, I mean, I was pleasantly surprised when I first moved here and I realized there's an independent film scene here. And it's been here for a while. And just over in less than a decade, I've seen it grow so very much just in the past few years. And it's always been refreshing to me in that regard. So there's not low hanging fruit. I mean, there's opportunity. There's opportunity here.
Yeah. So to really make my point a little bit more concise, it's just break free of the small market mentality and just be prepared and ready for any and every opportunity. And this is something that, again, I experienced with Sue several years ago. We both had the opportunity to audition for a show that films in New Zealand.
Right.
And this was at the beginning of the whole self-tape fad. And and it's no longer a fad. It's now a necessity.
The Blair Witch phenomenon or something like that.
But I mean, the whole idea that, here we are, two people from Salt Lake, and we're auditioning for a show that could potentially be a very big show, and it ended up going 4 seasons. That films solely in New Zealand for worldwide distribution. It's pretty cool. But then the other thing is just to make sure that our legislators know that it's got value, and it's got immediate value rather than all of the long-term incentives that are going on. we need more incentive to compete with other markets.
Yeah, for sure. Sue, do you kind of follow that same kind of line of thought? I mean, do you think it's a question of just like a tax write-off kind of situation? I mean, I know money talks and BS walks, but would that be a big point of the argument if I were to, give you that challenge to come up to like studios in LA and say, hey, look, you guys can come over here and here's the reason why?
I mean, yeah, for sure. And I agree with everything that has been said. And I think that Utah is a gym that is, it's been having more recognition in the past little bit here, thank goodness. But
right.
yeah, for sure, our tax incentives are what started to bring film to Utah. And then it also has made it because they have not been able to agree to, up the ante a bit to keep film here. And then it also is going to deter films to come here. So now that I believe, all this is going on, we have a lot other film productions looking into Utah because we have been able to stay open for film, and hopefully that'll get some more people coming here because it really is a fantastic place to film. We have amazing actors. We have, the locations. We have everything in Utah.
That's one thing that
location-wise.
That's one thing that really kind of inspired me too. There's everything here. There's deserts, there's salt flats, there's mountains, there's forests, there's lakes. You could do any kind of period anything here in Salt Lake and the surrounding area. And well, I hope that in time after we going through admittedly a very challenging time when it comes to any kind of production. I hope that Salt Lake independent film community, and maybe not the independent, maybe the regular, more commercialized networks and whatnot, will see the, what you said, that this place is a jewel and the massive amount of talent and potential that is here. It's really astounding to me, and it's a constant thing in the back of my mind, honestly. Something we talk about all the time.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. Like, we do have competent actors, we have crews. Everybody, they really do know what they're doing. It's just a matter of them being able to put their trust in us that we do have the abilities that any other market possibly could have.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, I do appreciate your guys' input in regards to into that. I know it might be a little bit weird because to everybody, to full discretion, Sue and I met like 5 minutes ago, and all of a sudden I'm throwing these huge questions at her. We'll talk about politics and the existence of God later. Don't worry, Sue. But no, I'm kidding, of course. But ultimately, you guys came here to hear what we had to say about the film in question, and it's again, I'm so very happy to have a wonderful panel here to talk about it because this one's a heavy one. It's an interesting one, and it is a important one. I am, of course, talking about the 2019 film, one of the first, maybe the first, to actually try and tackle the Me Too movement and some very important real-world ramifications being brought to light in regards to this piece of art, The Assistant.
Welcome. Have a seat. Whatever's going on, you can tell me. That's what I'm here for. You're relatively new to the company.
I mean, I've been working here for nearly 2 months.
And you're under a lot of stress. Entry-level jobs in this industry are tough, right? Long hours? First one in, last one out.
Good night.
You're smart. You have to be smart. It's a tough job, but I can see that you've got what it takes.
I want those new pages before I get on the plane.
He promised them first thing.
Where are we at?
200K in 2 points.
That's bull.
Maybe you can put in a good word for you.
No, he'll hire externally. Listen, his schedule has shifted. Does 7 p.m. work?
Still at the hotel, or?
Yes. What?
This is turkey. I said chicken.
There's a girl waiting.
Oh, her. She's been here before. A few times.
What is it?
The wife. Say he's in an important meeting.
No, say he's in the screening.
Where is he?
What did you say, son? What did you say? They told me you were smart.
I overreacted.
It was not my place to question your decision. I will not let you down again.
You know you can always come to us, right? Come to us first, okay?
The last 2 checks don't have a name or anything, just the dollar amount.
Ignore it.
Okay, and will he know what it's for?
Yep, he'll know.
I wouldn't sit there.
Never sit on the couch.
Here and here, initial here, sign there.
Do I need a lawyer or something?
Do you have a lawyer?
I was worried for this girl. I mean, they were just like laughing about it.
Can you deal with this?
Hi, why me?
Who was that?
That? Wasting my time.
Your mom and I were excited for you. It's a great opportunity.
What can we do?
Do about what?
Okay, guys, so we're back, and we're talking about, in case you didn't see it from the from the preview, the assistant. Let's read from the IMDb summary of it for the storyline here. The assistant follows one day in the life of Jane, played by Julia Garner, a recent college graduate and aspiring film producer who has recently landed her dream job as a junior assistant to a powerful entertainment mogul. Her day is much like any other assistant's, making coffee, changing the paper in the copy machine, ordering lunch, arranging travel, taking phone messages, onboarding a new hire. But as Jane follows her daily routine, she and we grow increasingly aware of the abuse that insidiously colors every aspect of her workday, an accumulation of degradations against which Jane decides to take a stand, only to discover the true depth of the system into which she has entered. And that was a review written by Bleecker Street. So we're going to jump right in here, guys. This has been a very, very interesting point of view that we look into, because I think that the assistant probably rings a couple bells for everybody who's been able to spend some time in the film industry. First of all, a spectacular performance by Julia Garner, somebody who has been able to cut her teeth and prove herself on more than one occasion on many a Netflix show, many a production. She's amazing in this, and she is supported by a wonderful cast, which includes, John Orsini, Rory Culls. We have Noah Robbins coming in. There's Alexander Chaplin. There's a number of very capable, very studious actors in here who I think do a very, very masterful job of understanding the need that there is so much more you could say with less. When we go through and talk about the different ramifications of the film, there are a lot of people that say the same thing, and one of the things that I did pick up on was really the pacing of the film. This thing is not a popcorn movie. It is not it's not the Avengers for sure. It's trying to make a statement, and it's trying to do so with the use of silence, which we will talk about, and also the use of things that you can't see right in front of your face, the pacing being a major thing. One thing that I wanted to bring across to you, Sue, and to you, Andrus, is really that major point of the film. Technically, the pacing in this thing is really, really slow, at least to me. Mm-hmm. Why do you guys think? Agreed. Why do you guys think it was that the pacing was slowed down so much in regards to this? And what do you think was the effect it had on you when you were watching this? Do you think it was a positive situation, or do you think it just made you bored of the movie? What are your thoughts?
Well, I've got a pretty solid theory there. Sue, would you like to tackle this one first, or do you want me to go?
Sure. Yeah. I actually loved the pacing because it was slower, nice. And for me, I got to see inside of what she was going through this whole day. It made it feel like it was a year.
Yeah, no, for sure.
But which was very important, because I think if anybody has been in that situation before, you really do feel like you don't know what to do, and you have so much turmoil going on inside, and like just to be in that position, I think would be absolutely horrific.
The power dynamic throughout the entire film is just ridiculous to me. There is just such a disbalance just by her position where she has to talk, and the different even when she has the ability to make her concerns heard, it's nullified because of such this distortion of that power dynamic. I don't mean to cut you off. And also, before we get any further, everybody, this is definitely going to be a non-spoiler-free episode. So,
spoiler alerts!
If you have not seen The Assistant, first of all, it came out in 2019, so I think we're pretty safe. But we're going to talk about everything. We're going to talk about plot points, and we're going to talk about the different points in the story besides the technical stuff. But Sue, you mentioned that you liked the pacing, so I guess you would think that it's like a positive tool that was used. could you go into that a little bit more? I mean, was it because it filled out the space more, or because it was because the pacing had just made use of the quiet moments more? Or, I mean, like how did it hit you more in depth when it came to how the movie was flowing? Why did you like it so much in regards to its slower take on the action?
Yeah, I really felt like you could dive into what she was going through internally because of those moments that it just like held on a shot, or, you know, it would just like hover in a room and you just like felt everything going on in that room. And then her mundane chores that she had to do as the assistant.
Been there.
And you know, I mean, it was just like it was kind of grueling, and it just felt like that. To be in that position, it would be, you know, really difficult. And so I felt her turmoil through the pacing.
You could empathize with her.
Yeah.
Andrus, do you feel the same? Do you think that the pacing of this was a detriment to the film, or do you think it was used in a way that really kind of echoes what Sue was talking about, how it allows you to have space to empathize with this character? I mean, obviously, you know, you and Sue both come from acting backgrounds. I personally, I remember working in studios where I had to, you know, make sure the water jugs were filled to the proper place. I had to make sure that I didn't mess up any transfers on the phone line, that kind of thing, when I was getting started. Did the pacing kind of speak to your own personal experience? Is that a way as to how was it you were able to, you know, empathize with this character? Was it easier than if you were watching, like, you know, a horror flick or something like that?
Well, yeah. I mean, let's call this movie what it is. It's a horror movie, right?
That's
It's
fair.
terrifying.
That's fair.
No,
that's interesting.
That was more of a play on words. But for me, I certainly had flashbacks to whenever I did PA work on any movie that I've ever done, because all of those tasks need to get done. Who does them? Somebody, right? And if you're that somebody, you know what time, effort, and energy it takes to do it. But for me, the pacing in this was 100% accurate to tell the story that they were trying to tell. And for me going into it, I wasn't really prepared for a pacing like that, because I really wanted to
I wasn't either.
Came from. I really wanted to feel the energy of all of this. But certainly what the outcome was a slow build.
Absolutely.
But so by starting the day, like before the sun rises, getting into a car, going to the location of the studio, doing all of the horrible jobs that she had to do to start the day. One of the most graphic things in the movie is in the first couple minutes where she's cleaning the couch.
Oh yeah.
So just everything that she goes through, I myself feel like I went through a lot of that.
We've all been like out in the morning when you can see the breath coming out of her mouth, and you can see the difference in regards to the neighborhoods, how she's going from, like, you know, Astoria, Queens or whatever. The film takes place in New York, BT dubs, and goes over the bridge into the extravagance of Manhattan and the financial district, and how there's such it's like they're turning a page in a book. And you can see that being played importantly. I'm sorry to cut you off, but like, yeah, the memory must have resonated with you a lot. Is that what really hit you the most when it came to like the first 15 minutes of the film, the first act?
Well, just the overall scope of what this whole movie is certainly there's that idea of whatever I've been through in the past with going through production work like that. And also just in an everyday work environment. If you're the peon, if you're the assistant, if you're the low rung on the totem pole, you get all those crap jobs. The scene where she's doing the dishes in front of the other coworkers who are having a conversation as if she doesn't even exist, and then they leave their dishes for her to take care of at the end of it. It's so insulting.
The class dynamics are pretty ridiculous in regards to this whole thing, and that's something that I think kind of resonated with me too, because I've been on crews before, and I've been the new guy and that kind of thing, and one of the people that kind of brought me into the scene a long time ago said that, look, if you're at the bottom of the rung If you're at the bottom rung on the ladder, your only job is yes. That's it. It doesn't matter what they ask, what they do, what you have to do. If you want to move up the ladder, then you have to say yes, and you have to get it done, regardless of how. And that's something that can be a positive thing when taken in the proper way. If you can cut your teeth in a positive environment, if you know what it means to work hard and honestly like shovel the crap out of the gutters and do whatever, that's going to make the other challenges that you deal with when you do earn a place higher in the ladder. That's going to, I think, from my own personal experience, it's going to make you more thankful. It's going to make you do a better job. But of course, in this particular film, we look at how being at the bottom rung of the ladder can be used as a entryway for abuse, can be used as a way for looking down on people and smashing their goals before they even get started. And it's unfair. And unfortunately, I think all three of us could speak to this. It does happen, and it happens a lot in the industry. I think that going further, when we talk about like how pacing is put into play, we can't say that without talking about how it was shot. And one thing that really did come across to me, even though I'm not a cinematographer, was just the use of negative space. And Sue, you talked about this a bit too. Like you were looking in the background, you were seeing the colors that are being used. There's like some sort of blue A-toned filter put on this entire film. Makes things look a bit more dreary in regards to that, regardless of the light sources that are popping up. Do you guys, a negative space, I mean, like, usually when you're dealing with, a point of film, we have like that golden ratio, the actor's face and body is taking up a particular percentage of the screen during different points of dialogue or action scenes or something like this. This particular shooting style reminded me of Mr. Robot a little bit, the series that was on USA for a number of years, because you see the character, you see Jane, like just in like one corner of the screen. And then the rest of it is filled up with like this dreary, like morose kind of, city skyline or the office space, something like that. Do you think that, Sue, do you think that, like, coming from your background, do you think it'd be more challenging when you're behind the camera to make proper use of a shooting style like that? I mean, Julia Garner is, I don't mean to objectify her too much, but she's a beautiful woman. She's very talented. She sucks up the light in the room because she has so much talent. She has a capability to make use of big and small moments. Her work with the Ozarks is definitely, proof of that. Do you think that the point of negative space was used in a positive fashion in this film from where you're coming from when you watched it?
Yeah, I think it did. Again, it really shows her environment and what she has to deal with moment to moment throughout the entire day. And it makes her feel very small. And I think it was fascinating that you guys brought up the point that when you come into an entry position, you're just the yes man. Yeah. Yes, I gotta do this, I gotta do that. And so making her feel very small in that environment with everything that she does, and seeing all the little bustling things around this big office that, makes her the little person, and then making decisions that she made. I think that it was used very powerfully. Yeah,
I think that was definitely a wise choice by Kitty Green. She was the not only the director of this, but also the writer of the screenplay. And when you have somebody like that who partners up with a cinematographer like Michael Latham, you're going to have this way that is very intelligent, but also I think is very delicate because it can be used too much, way too easily, and that's having the visuals of the film. This is going to sound a little layman, but the visuals of the film really reinforce the message of the film. I mean, it's one thing to say like, hey, we're watching Hellboy and everything is going to be painted red, obviously. But like when you have like something like this, where it's going to be something where you're not going to have your eyes overpowered by spectacle, where like these little things here, these very competent choices are going to, it kind of affect you in ways that you aren't aware of until you may have been around the block a couple times. I mean, like we can understand the tools that are being used, but subconsciously things like that are going to affect the audience in a way. Andrus, when you go through and talk about like the feelings that you had when you were looking into this film, like where, we just talked about it, like, waking up at 4 a.m. because you got to be on call by 6, or, having to brave, the holes in your shoes and your coat during a winter morning or something like that. Something I had to go through on more than one occasion, actually.
Sure.
Ultimately, like, did this film make you feel uncomfortable? And if so, do you think that was really a goal by the production, or was it something like nostalgia kicked in or something?
No, I absolutely think the production knew what they wanted you to feel, and I think I would be surprised if we all didn't feel very.
I feel claustrophobic. I'll be honest.
In the result of it,
Yeah.
right? And all of that, since we are different people, we're going to interpret it in our own personal way. But I think the idea of small, the idea of claustrophobic, the idea of belittled, the idea of invisible, the idea of just this insignificant being in the scope of what this is. And again, it's a production office.
Yeah.
They're not saving lives like doctors. They're not superheroes saving the world. They're not first responders or police or firemen or anything like that. These are movie people.
Right. That's
so. I mean, the fact that we're talking about this movie and how significant it is in such an ironic.
It is ironic.
Setting and situation is certainly something, but I think that if anybody has felt that way, I think this movie has been fashioned and created and put together in such a way to reinforce that, so that you can really empathize with that.
One thing that I really did enjoy is that most of the movies that I do watch, you're going and it's like a movie about movie makers, or it's a movie that like, we have to go on set for real or whatever. Majority of the time you're going to see the same like LA thing on the lot at Warner Brothers, and like there's people like so glamorous and so
and look at all these things. And
how important to the message of this movie is the fact that they did not glorify filmmaking. Like, Sue, do you think that was like the major tool that was used here, or do you think it was something that just kind of was part of the Lego pieces that ended up supporting this message? Do you think that this movie would have affected you in the way that it did if there was any kind of glorification of like, the industry at all? Or do you think it was obviously a choice, but do you think it worked?
I think it worked. I don't know what their intentions would have been behind it.
Right.
For me though, it shows what really happens in the industry, to be honest.
No, for sure.
And not even necessarily the fact, the whole Me Too issue, but it's like, it's really not a glamorous job all the time.
It's definitely a labor of love for a lot of people.
Yeah. We work hard. We work long hours. We do stuff we don't love to do all the time, but we do it because we love the ultimate goal of getting to where we want to be in the industry. And so whether they were using that as a tool, I'm not sure on that intention, but I feel like it painted a pretty good picture of what the industry is like behind the scenes.
Right, given your experience.
And and just reading about, the interviews they did for the film, I guess they went into other markets as well, not just the film industry, to interview women on, what happens behind the scenes. And so, I mean, technically it could be any industry this happens to, not just the film industry. And so I liked that it said that, because any office in anywhere in America could have this going on, not just the film industry.
Right. And that's something that we should address. I mean, this movie has been, like I mentioned before in the other part of the episode, this movie has been coined one of the first major productions that has tackled the Me Too movement in a way that is relevant to the challenges that come up in regards to that movement. Going through when it comes to the movie, we do see how Jane despite the the fact that she's a low rung on the ladder, she is privy to the inner workings of how this particular production studio goes. And it's not an autobiography of what was going on with Harvey Weinstein. It is definitely, though, affected by real world events in regards to that. And we've talked on earlier episodes in regards to the Harvey Weinstein effect and the terrible things that happened in regards to that individual, for lack of a better term. And this movie was definitely inspired by those events. Towards the end of the movie, we do see Jane is witness to the producer, the person who owns a production company, who, Andrus brought this up to me, is not ever given a name. The name of the producer who is committing sexual assault against these young actresses who come in hoping to make a name for themselves, hoping just to work honestly and just see if they can make it in the industry, is never given a name in the script. It's not credited. You just know that they're there. And I thought that was a ridiculously creative tool. It did not put a face on the monster. Sorry, go ahead, Andrus.
And then I believe that we only see him once or twice throughout the entire thing. Otherwise, the perspective isn't on him, but it's on her because it's her
Absolutely.
story. And I think that her engaging him face to face is part of that.
Well, we have a couple of scenes where towards the end of the movie, Jane knows beyond the fashion of beyond any doubt that there is a power dynamic here that is being used as a gateway for abuse. And one of the things that kind of I found interesting and also a little disheartening was the way in which, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I got the impression that Jane, being so new, didn't really think that this is the kind of things that were happening. You could see in the performance where the character was going through these different phases where is that really what's going on? And though it is affirmed, towards the end of the movie, one thing that I did find interesting was that you could tell that everybody in the office, except for Jane, knew what was going on. And they were complacent in it because, well, maybe they were forced to be. When it comes to a situation like that, when you're using characters that have less than a 5 minutes or so of screen time, what do you guys think is probably coming from an actor's background is a challenging thing that has to be taken into consideration? It is definitely Jane's story, but I don't think it would hit as hard if we didn't see so much complacency from the supporting cast. Do you think this would have been this movie would have hit as hard as it did if it was solely about Jane's struggle and didn't take into consideration the struggles of like the other characters? We see some characters being yelled at by the producer. We see some of them offer like asides. I believe I'm paraphrasing, but I believe one of them said something like, "Don't worry, he's getting more out of it than she's getting more out of it than he will," or something along those lines towards the end of the film. How important is the supporting cast in regards to this? Is it a situation where this horrid power struggle wouldn't be as dynamic if we didn't have the guys that work in the office with her, or like Andrus said, like the ladies who look down on her to wash dishes and everything? What are you guys' thoughts in regards to that dynamic between Jane versus the supporting cast in this production?
Yeah, for me, it really just showed that the more the people were in the industry, they just got numb to it a bit. Yeah. And they knew that if they were going to be a whistleblower, if they were going to bring it up or combat it, then, most likely they're not going to be in the industry, in that particular company or position very long. And so it really showed me what the dynamics were of the other people that are in the industry compared to her, and showing that they really do just kind of take it.
Did that make you upset, or were you able to find a way to empathize with them?
No, I mean, it makes me very upset because I know that's very true, and I know that's something that people do. It's really difficult to be able to bring up something like that, knowing that you have the goals that you have, and that if you say something or do something, it's going to compromise your position. and it's a sad truth. And so for me, having those people in there, I think is very instrumental to show that, you know, how new and fresh she was in the industry, and just trying to figure it all out and trying to do the best job that she could do because of her goals. And then how, you know, when she did decide to, or, you know, she makes a choice,
she
and
does.
and then she ends up, you know, how she ends up. So I think it's something that really showed the grave dynamics.
Andrus, do you agree
in what we do?
Do you agree with that, Andrus?
Yeah.
Do you think that dynamic was maybe one of the most powerful tools in this film that was being used, or how did you relate to it when you're watching this?
Well, I think it's just necessary. I mean, there's so many things throughout this entire movie where if one element is missing, then maybe you don't achieve the whole complete picture that they put together. But there's a couple standout things. Again, the comment about the couch. Oh, right. Nobody sat there on that couch. How one of the office guys is walking her through how to respond in email.
Yeah, just dehumanizes the character
to a threat of being fired because of her insubordination.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a second.
Whatever it was. Just everything about this, I think was put in place perfectly, because here's the thing: without a group of people working in an office, then there's no office conversation to be had.
Like I know it might be like a bit of an obvious thing to mention in regards to like our review of the film, but I think it's really important to understand that regardless of how capable an actor Gardner is, she wouldn't be able to impact us as much if it wasn't for the support that she's getting from this cast. The idea that Jane is first innocent, then no longer innocent, and then tries to fight, but is still thrown down regardless of that, and then loses hope and becomes truly a member of the supporting cast, I think is just a reflection of things that really happen in the real in production and in this lifestyle, quite honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and it's also, I think, a matter of what the position carries in itself, right? So I think that another actor could have brought just as quality of a performance to this as she did, but I'm so glad that she did. One, because you and I have had the conversation that I got an opportunity to work with her on a scene up at the Nance Directors Labs, and I followed her career since that, and I've seen so many great things that she's done.
The labs being an actual kind of like, for lack of a better term, an actor's brain trust that Sundance Film does allow when it comes to locals here in Utah, and once again proving, like to Sue's point, the ridiculous competence that actors here in Salt Lake and Utah have.
Yeah,
that's always been really exciting. I'm sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, not at all. But I think the fact that she's a shorter stature actress, and they bring in these gigantic, like super tall women to as a contrast for their stature and her stature, as far as the sex appeal and stuff like that.
Dude, yeah. One of the asides that kind of like really hit me kind of emotionally was like, "Hey, don't worry, you're not his type." Or you're not his type. You don't have anything to worry about.
Right, which is so offensive on so many levels, because it's not. I mean, a sexual predator is a sexual predator.
Sure.
Period. I mean, everybody has their version of what that is for them. But for me, the idea that she's just so completely ignored, yet then has the strength to take it upon herself to bring it up in a very official way.
Let's talk about that scene.
Let's talk about that scene. Protecting somebody that she feels is being taken advantage of.
There's this great 1v1 between her and Wilcock, played by the excellent Matthew McFadden, and he plays the HR rep. And even though she's coming to him in a place of vulnerability, and she's coming to him with, in hopes of being able to make it so that there isn't another victim in regards to the producer's habits and whatnot. McFadden just goes through and gives her this cold, logical. It was so strong though. Like the way both of them were able to push back and forth. Where at first you can see Wilcock, that's the name of his character, being receptive and saying, "Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, let's talk about this," and so on and so forth. And then turning on a dime after talking about a New York Islanders game and saying, and knowing for sure why Jane is really there and what he has to do to make sure. And just the guilt that's implied, like he does mention things like, you know how many people work for this guy, right? Do you want to ruin people's careers?
The threats, the threats that aren't blatant, but there, it was just. Ugh.
How often? And Sue, I'm going to ask something that's a bit personal, and if you don't feel like answering it, that's completely fine. But how often in your career have you had to deal with power dynamics that put you at a disadvantage at first, and you're forced to fight to get proper representation in whatever it is that you're doing in this industry?
Yeah, I've been pretty fortunate in the things and the projects that I've been involved in. I haven't had a lot of experience with it, thank goodness. I've had a few incidences where, maybe not to the level of what the film speaks of, but it's been to where I did find myself in a position where I had to be, because I am a woman, I believe that it's, things were brought up and I had to fight for my position. And so that's very sobering, actually. But I have heard of other cases where people, have been asked to be in compromising positions and, to keep whatever job or the position that they've had. And some of them turned it down, and some of them, ended up following through with it. And so, it's actually, and not only to say it was with women, because it is with women and men. So I, heard it from both sides of the story, of people being put in this compromising position. But for me personally, I haven't had, too much, and always knock on wood.
Yeah, no, I
don't ever want to be.
And I really appreciate
placed, even though
I really appreciate just being honest with us in that regard too. I know it's not a really easy subject to talk about, but then again, I mean, part of this whole project that Andrus and I are doing is trying to just the idea. We both believe that film can be used as a message for anything that happens in the world. And this is definitely a chance for me to be educated in regards to the different situations that people in the community have to deal with. So I really do appreciate you, allowing us to ask you these questions and moving farther down the line.
Yeah.
And you brought up a really good.
Well, no,
please.
I was going to say, I really think it does have to deal with, the education and movies like this coming out and just educating everybody on the matter and how to deal with it. And I use a lot of humor in, other situations that I possibly could have been
gone worse.
Put in a position like that. I use a lot of humor to brush things off, and then, knowing
but you shouldn't have to.
My goals.
You shouldn't have to.
No, you shouldn't have to. But I think it starts with knowing how to combat it so you don't put yourself in those positions in the first place. And then just having enough self-worth and knowing that your goals are important and that you have the talent and the ability, and not needing to succumb to things that, just suffice other people.
I think
I mean, to me, that's the key.
Excellent. That's excellent. And honestly, that's a really good segue to another big question I wanted to ask both of you. As educators, I mean, you guys are also, acting coaches, and you have the capability of being able to educate people, like you mentioned, prior to us even getting to the preview of the film. How much both of you enjoy giving people, a jump, giving them education in regards to how the business works, and not only what you can do technically as an actor, but also technically what can be done, how to find a good agent and something like that. But as educators, for both of you, how important is it for new actors to watch this movie? It's not a biography. It's not this picture of actual events, but there's no question that it was affected by events that we all know really happened and they've been brought to light. How important is it for new actors to watch this film?
No, I think it's incredibly important. This would definitely be one of the ones for a go-to education and conversation for sure. I think especially in the industry that we're in, it kind of paints a very dull picture of what the behind the scenes production office work can be. So yay, even better deterrent for them to stay in front of camera. But at the same time, how telling and how impactful is this, and what a great preparation for them to know that if something like this were to happen, they need to and they should speak up and not feel any sort of pressure about losing their job or losing.
But it's easier said than done sometimes, right?
Sure,
I mean, like
100%.
I mean, like if you're offered like I mean, a hypothetical situation, 100% hypothetical. But what if, like, you're given the role of a lifetime? What if you're going to play the next Captain America for the next 10 years? But in order to do that,
possible. It's a very possible.
It's possible. But like, what if you're put into like that kind of position? I mean, I don't want to stray too far away from the constants of self-respect and being and finding help where you have to. But
I have an answer for that.
Go for it.
I absolutely have an answer for that, because that's something that I discuss with a lot of one, my students, and two, just actors that have questions for me, being in the position that I am in the casting office. And the answer is know within the scope of who you are, what your boundaries are, what the very, very clear lines of nudity, of language, of content, of all of the things that could be posed to you as an actor, because we do anything and everything in film these days as far as subject matter.
It imitates life.
So
it has to be.
It has to be, right? So just know within you, are you one of those people that are comfortable in a sexual situation, that are comfortable using harsh language, that are comfortable in a violent situation?
Specifically from a narrative point of view. Like, is it in the movie? Does it make sense in the
Yeah, because me as a human being, I always told myself that I would never put myself in a position for A, B, and C. And I will never do those roles, A, B, and C.
Even if you're offered $1 million? Sorry to play devil's advocate.
And if a position were to become available for even call it your favorite director, favorite producer, favorite whatever, piles of cash and fame and fortune and whatever, certainly that's more enticing for you to then question where the bend is versus where the break is in that one.
Okay.
And I think that for you to explore that, it's a personal decision. And I say, if you're a person that doesn't have any objection to any of that, go for it.
Okay.
That is your choice. That is your decision. But know that that's you making that educated choice and decision to do it.
And to be completely specific, you're speaking in regards to, like, again, to like the form of a narrative. Like if there is a movie that was coming up and there was a love scene, or if there was,
I mean, really, it could be any promotion that you want, any job career that you want. It doesn't have to be in the movie industry, but that's mostly what we're talking about.
Gotcha.
Here. But I would say, if you've always said that you're never going to do a nude scene in a movie, one, you're one person at one part of your career, and you're a totally different person at another phase in your career. So that may change, that may adjust.
Okay.
But as long as you're the one making the decision for you, and you're comfortable with doing whatever whatever that content is, that's your choice by all means. If you're ever pressured into it, that's a totally different conversation.
Yeah.
And if you feel that pressure in that sense, then that's where you really should say, okay, I think this conversation is done for now because I'm uncomfortable, and then find a way to get out of that situation completely in order to then either process what happened or figure out what your next step is. But I think ultimately all of those choices really are up to the individual. And I think something like this movie has a really good place to for a person to start a conversation like that.
I understand.
Well, do you feel comfortable?
Yeah.
Great. If not, find someone to talk to about.
Sue, is this movie important for new actors to watch?
Yeah, I agree with Robert as well. Like, I think this is a starting point to be able to open discussion. And I don't know if it's crucial, but I definitely think that this is a movie that can open up some conversations and open up some doors for other avenues to, help other people understand what could happen in the industry.
I see.
And I also think, I agree with Robert that I do think it is everybody's personal decision on what they decide to do or what their goals
Right.
and boundaries are. And
can I stop you for just a second there? Because I appreciate what
Sure.
you're saying, and Andrus picked this up a bit as well. But it's important, I think, too, to have a balance from outside the situation, not to shame people for making those decisions.
Mhm.
I mean,
Of course.
I don't want to get too graphic or anything, but obviously, there are industries in production and everything where all it is just sex and that kind of thing. And I know it comes from everybody's own personal opinion, but I think it's important too to find a balance in regards to absolutely doing what you can to destroy these toxic power dynamics, but also not to judge people if they want to do something that's more adult, I guess, for lack of a better term. And of course, I'm not justifying anything in regards to the habits when it came to Weinstein's manipulation and that kind of stuff. I don't think that anybody who is kind of manipulated should justify it by saying, well, okay, I guess this project is pornography, and I guess I'm going to just do that. For lack of a better way to balance things. I don't want to shame people for making certain choices. But then again, I mean, I don't want to get on the side of somebody who says, hey, it's the biz, it's just what you got to do in order to make it big. And
that's a gross
it's definitely, I agree. I mean, it's definitely a personal choice for every individual. But then I like that you hit on the idea that it's people that are using a position of power to then get what they want or need or feel a desire, or to prey on people who may not be making that decision or who are in a weaker position.
A lack of education too, to the point that you were making before.
Yes.
Yeah.
And for me, that's what it is. It's like if it's your choice, then it's your choice. But to make that choice is the important thing. But to have somebody else manipulate you to make a choice and put you in that position, then that's where I feel like it's, when people do that, to me, that's like very deceiving and just not something that, creates any type of positive situation.
Yeah, for sure.
And so I think that, having that knowledge for this is going to be the key for everybody to start discussions and to start making it so they're aware that the situations that exist, so you can be able to make the choice for that.
Yeah, well said, I think. And again, I know sometimes it can be like an awkward conversation that pops up whenever we talk about this subject matter. To everybody who's listening, I'm just speaking from my own personal experience, and I want to make sure that everybody understands that my opinion is my opinion. I'm going to put that out there. I'm going to be honest, and I just really do appreciate Andrus and you, Sue, being here to bounce a couple of things off of in regards to what has turned out to be just given. Again, the Me Too movement coming from this situation, the Weinstein effect, how it is, and it may still be something of a prolific situation. And that's also something that I wanted to ask you guys honestly. Is probably like the last question we're going to have in today's episode. Do you think that this movie gives a proper representation, or do you think that the problem is not as bad as it seems, more than it not getting enough attention as it should be currently now? Where do you guys think we stand when it comes to power dynamics, abuse in the industry, and that kind of thing coming through and being looked at appropriately, given the seriousness that it deserves?
I would say for me, it's always going to be an issue.
Okay.
Having a power dynamic is honestly the way that I think that most businesses are built.
Okay.
I mean, you'll always have somebody on the first level, second level, third level, all the way up to the penthouse tower. Right. And whatever somebody decides as their power and how they want to manipulate that, I think is just part of how our society is built. I mean, if you look at any culture and any country, any culture, any business, anything, I think that there's going to be a position of power, whether that's a man or a woman, if that's any religious background.
Sure, no question.
I mean, there's those levels in every single.
You can't get away from it, really. There's a rank and file.
Yeah, I mean, military. It's everywhere. So I think it's just a matter of just making sure that people understand, one, that they are in a position of power and they need to be respectful, and two, if you're feeling manipulated by that power, it's your position to then either speak out or terminate that dynamic,
which can be very challenging. It can be make or break.
No, for sure it is. For sure it is. But I mean, I think that everybody given the tools to use their own power has the opportunity to, one, either fight back or walk away.
Okay.
I mean, easier said than done.
For sure.
But I think that that's also a starting point with a conversation with somebody.
You're not going to be able to be educated about it if you're not willing to talk about it.
I think the starting point is education, and then seeing where that story goes.
Sue, same question. Is the industry as bad at this as the assistance projects, or is it as prolific as the message of this film is providing us, or do you think it's safer than it says it is? What are your feelings in regards to that?
I think it's pretty accurate. I think there's more of a movement towards it. So now
more attention.
People are, being more aware of what this is. But I also, honestly, just like I said before, it's really not just in our industry. I actually just last night was asked that question, that, is it really that bad as they say it is in the industry? And, with the Harvey Weinstein and, he got 23 years in prison, thank goodness. But still it's, they asked because it's brought to light in just our industry that it's such an evil, horrific industry. Yeah. And, it's there for sure. But then again, it's there in every industry, and, being aware of it, I think, is important. And we are the keepers of our own destiny. And I think, if you are placed in positions like that, just decide, is it really that necessary? Because there's jobs out there, there's plenty things out there. It's not willing, or it's not, it's really not that important to give up your goals and your dignity and your choices to, somebody else's power of position.
Well, then that kind of opens up the question a little bit to me. When I'm getting great feedback from two, for lack of a better term, two veterans of the industry, especially here in the Salt Lake community. If it is as big of a problem as it is, then why take up acting at all? Why, if you're going to be dealing with this challenge, why put yourself in that situation?
Well, like I said, for me, this career of being a storyteller is one of the most important jobs we could possibly have.
I absolutely agree with you.
Thank you. Yeah. But I believe that we are, as actors, we are the teachers of other people's hearts to be opened. And, we get to bring stories and messages to light, and it encompasses all these different arts. And for me, it really is just like a passion of storytelling, and how much I adore this career, and think it is one of the jobs that is necessary. so it's really not a matter of, because this is in the industry, we need to stay away from
Right.
it. It's a matter of what we brought up before, is being educated
Right.
that this is a possibility, and then just staying strong with your particular goals and values.
Right. I think that's such a competent opinion. I really do. And I am absolutely a fan of the way that you put it. I mean, and this film is definitely an example of how people can take the stories of other people's hearts and their experiences and bring a lot of things to light, so that the conversation, what we're having right now, is brought up, and through that, education and safety can be more prolific than the negative aspects that come into not only this industry, but you're both. I agree with both of you to really every industry that pops up in everywhere, really.
Yeah. And I've got a question for both of you guys. I'll volunteer my answer quickly first, and it doesn't need to be a super elaborate answer or whatever, but. If this was the situation that you were presented, put yourself in her position in the movie, and it's up to you to come forward and talk to HR. How do you approach that subject?
That's really the big question, right? Like the point of this movie is to empathize with Jane and really think to yourself, what would I do?
My answer is it pretty much is the same story as Jane. I felt like, I mean, I don't know what strength I would have in a real life situation like that, but me walking through the story with her, I felt very much that I'm like, okay, well, if I'm given that same situation and I felt the same way, how do I approach that? Yeah. I've had some more experiences in my life than I think than Jane has had.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So I want to say that I would take a stronger approach to it. But I feel like her, the way that she approached it is similar to maybe what I would have done in the past.
I think
maybe want to say that I would be a little bit more bold with mine.
The cynical part of me says like, well, how dire is my situation? Because I've definitely, and like this definitely speaks. I mean, first of all, this definitely speaks to, where I'm coming from. I'm a dude who weighs 230 pounds. I can bench my body weight. And if, I had different advantages when it comes to certain social situations than a young lady would have. And I had,
martial arts.
yeah. And I had to take ownership of that. But the cynical side of me, of course, says, well, am I, poor again? Back in the day when I was, stealing candy from the sound studios working on so that I could fight hunger pains. It's definitely a point of context has to be taken into play. What I would like to think is that I would follow the advice that Sue's given us today and understand the need to educate myself about things first, and then take into consideration what you said to us today, Andrus, and make for lack of a better term, a code. What are you willing to do when it comes to representing yourself? And I think it's a big question that a lot of people have to ask, regardless of the industry.
Well, and I think a lot of us have experience, and these younger kids don't either. So I think that that's something to consider as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So did you want to answer the question? What do you think?
Yeah, so I would hope I would make the same decision. I can't say that I absolutely would.
You're being honest. You're being completely honest. I appreciate that, Sue.
For me, I really appreciate people who have the type of energy with the things that I like to be in line with. And so, I mean, like Robert, I have more experience now in my life. Back in the day, I don't know that I would have made that choice. Now, I really like to be in line with the people that I work with and the people that I'm around that have the same type of energy that I appreciate and the same type of forward motion, and knowing that, we're all in this together, that we don't have to rank power over somebody else in order to have a higher position. And so I would hope that if I was in that position, that I actually would just never be in that position, because I wouldn't be in that office.
Sure, I feel you.
Right. I wouldn't take the job because the energy just didn't,
You would already know. You already made your decision.
I would really hope that's what I would do,
Yeah.
That's brilliant. Well, guys, I really do appreciate the time that you've taken to talk about this piece of art. As usual, I do want to get some time to again thank you, Sue, for just moving your schedule around so that we could bring up some really important and really sometimes really awkward and sometimes really interesting questions to you and get that point of your perspective. And we really do appreciate you. And again, just showing us professionalism and giving us good feedback and an example to live by, honestly, when it comes to doing what we have to professionally or otherwise. So thank you very much for your time. I do appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This is a very important topic, and I'm so glad that you guys are bringing this up and bringing more light to the situation. And hopefully we can keep moving forward with this movement and making it so everybody can be at their comfort level.
Absolutely. Well, guys, we do appreciate your time too. Thank you for taking time out of your day to listen to us talk about this and giving us your thoughts in regards to it. Please feel free to throw us an email, pullfocuspod@gmail.com. Like and subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on SoundCloud. And also remember, we may be wrong, but it's your job to tell us. Thank you so very much again, Sue. Thank you, Andrus. Appreciate it. And, huge thank you again to anybody out there who is on the front line, doing that thing, fighting the hard fight in this time of COVID. If you are anywhere, if you are, in the woods fighting fires right now, if you are in the hospital helping people, if you are, around just doing the shopping for people who can't do it for themselves, we appreciate you. We really do want to say thank you. And to everybody out there, just be safe, be careful, keep your head in a swivel, and we'll all do the best that we can. But in the meantime, take care. We hope to hear from you again soon. And take it easy.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.